Hello and welcome to Harmony Hall, a sacred space for all. As we gather in peace, we will grow in our beliefs and let our spirits breathe, as we gently explore the many faiths and religions that shape our spiritual world. Harmony Hall is a place of respect, reflection, and spiritual curiosity. Today, around the campfire, we journey once more to the sacred sands of Egypt to discover the words that gave every soul a map to eternity. Here, where the words once carved for kings were now written for all who sought eternal life. Upon the walls of wooden coffins and stone chambers, sacred spells and prayers spread beyond the royal tombs. The coffin texts carried the voice of heaven into the hearts of everyday souls. This ancient faith reveals a world where the divine became personal, where farmers, priests, and queens alike could speak to the gods. The promise of rebirth was no longer for kings alone, but for all who knew the sacred words of the afterlife. A tale of how Egypt sought balance between Earth's realm and the stars, where kings ruled as living gods, and temples mirrored the heavens above. So come with me today, as we open the coffins of ancient Egypt and listen to the whispers written upon their walls, where mortal hands recorded immortal hope, and faith itself became the bridge between life and eternity. Thank you for being here today, and for choosing Harmony Hall to help you on your spiritual walk to self-discovery.
Our story begins in a land of golden sands and a life-giving river, a place known to the world as ancient Egypt. We are stepping back thousands of years to a time when great pyramids already stood as ancient monuments, silent against the sky. The world was different then, ruled by beliefs and traditions that centered on a complex and fascinating journey after death. In this video, we will explore a very special collection of ancient writings, the coffin texts. These were not books as we know them today, but magical spells and guides painted onto the inside of coffins. They were created to help the dead navigate the perilous journey to the afterlife, and to achieve eternal life among the gods. This exploration will guide us through their history and their purpose, and their surprisingly long-lasting impact on human thought. The coffin texts represent a pivotal moment in the spiritual history of ancient Egypt, a bridge between two other famous collections of funerary writings. The coffin texts were born during a unique and transformative era in Egyptian history. This period is known to historians as the First Intermediate Period, Middle Kingdom. It lasted from about 2100 BCE to 1600 BCE. The First Intermediate Period was a time of change and decentralization. The strong central power of the pharaohs of the Old Kingdom had weakened. Local governors, nomarchs, gained more influence and wealth. New religious ideas began to take hold during this shifting power. The exclusive right to a divine afterlife, once held only by the king, began to open up. Regional leaders and other officials could now access that divine afterlife if they could afford a proper burial. These texts were primarily created and used in the provinces of Middle Egypt and Upper Egypt. They were made away from the old royal capital of Memphis. The land is the same as modern Egypt, where these traditions flourished. Artisans, scribes. They worked for wealthy patrons, governors, mayors, high-ranking officials, who sought the same eternal privileges once reserved for the pharaoh. The coffin texts are a vast collection of ancient Egyptian funerary spells, numbering over 1,000 distinct incantations. They were written primarily in hieroglyphs, or sometimes in hieratic. These texts were inscribed on the interior surfaces of coffins, turning the burial container into a magical vessel of protection and knowledge. Think of it as a divine library and a spiritual toolkit given to the deceased for the long, dangerous journey through the Duat. The spells were meant to be recited by the spirit, giving power to overcome obstacles, defeat monstrous enemies, and persuade the gods for passage. The Book of Two Ways is the first illustrated underworld map, showing a land path and a water path leading toward Osiris. Its routes list fiery lakes, demonic gatekeepers, and the secret names and words needed to pass safely, a divine GPS for eternity. The spells within the coffin texts served a multitude of practical and magical purposes, all designed to ensure a successful transition into the next life. A very common spell guarded against dangers of the underworld. even preventing a terrifying fate like walking upside down, a reversal of cosmic order. Other spells repel snakes and venomous creatures. By reciting the correct words, the deceased commands chaos to stand down. A key goal was freedom of movement, to come forth by day and return by night. One famous spell granted precisely this power. Transformation spells let the deceased become a falcon in the sky or a lotus rising from the water, symbols of divine strength and rebirth. As one spell declares, "I am the great falcon that came forth from his egg. My wings are of beryl." The maps identified gates and hazards, while the texts supplied passwords and sacred names to pass. They also guaranteed provisions, food, drink, clothing, even if earthly offerings failed. A drawing of an ox could become an endless source of meat. Jars ensured the deceased never thirsted. Most profound are utterances to identify with Osiris and Ra. By reciting, "I am Osiris," the deceased becomes an Ak, a radiant, effective spirit worthy among the gods, joining the cosmic cycle of death and rebirth mirrored in the sun's daily journey. One of the most significant aspects of the coffin texts is how they represent a democratization of the afterlife. In the Old Kingdom, the promise of a divine afterlife was almost exclusively reserved for the pharaoh, a god on earth. These spells were carved only inside royal pyramids. With the rise of the coffin texts, regional elites appropriated royal privileges, now inscribed inside their coffins. Eternal life moved beyond the singular king toward a wider, yet still elite audience. Farmers, laborers, and simple artisans could not yet afford such burials. The new democracy remained limited to the upper class. Crucially, these texts emphasized moral judgment. One's deeds weighed before Osiris. Salvation could be achieved through proper ritual, magical knowledge, and a good heart. The coffin texts form the crucial middle chapter of funerary literature. Pyramid texts focused on a royal ascent to join Ra and the imperishable stars. Coffin texts shifted to the Osirian underworld and introduced maps and moral judgment. Around 1550 BCE, the Book of the Dead on papyrus broadened access further, organizing many coffin text spells into illustrated chapters. Papyrus was more affordable than a fully decorated coffin, opening the path to many more. Many famous chapters of the Book of the Dead derive directly from coffin texts. Over centuries, the dream of eternal life expanded along the Nile. The ideas and concepts that were developed in the coffin texts did not vanish with ancient Egypt. They created currents in human thought that flowed into later cultures and religions. A central idea is final judgment after death. The heart, seat of intelligence and conscience, weighed against the feather of Ma'at. If heavy with sin, it was devoured. If light, the deceased was declared true of voice and granted eternal life. This judgment theme echoes conceptually in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Islamic mizan, scales for deeds, resembles Osiris's scales. Hope for rebirth and resurrection likewise endures. Guiding the dead with sacred words persists, from Christian funerals to the Bardo Thodol in Tibetan Buddhism. The coffin texts stand as a monumental bridge between royal religion and a more accessible faith. Appearing around 2100 BCE during social change, they democratized eternity for the elite and armed souls with spells, maps, and sacred names. They protected against monsters, charted perilous routes, and taught how to stand before the gods. Their revolutionary emphasis on morality shaped later belief. Ultimately, their voices still resonate, reminding us that the human quest for meaning, judgment, and eternal life began long ago and still guides us today.
Thank you for joining me today on this sacred walk through time. Here in Harmony Hall, we gather in peace, grow in our beliefs, and let our spirits breathe, as we gently explore the many faiths and religions that shape our spiritual world. Join us next time, as we continue this journey of wonder, wisdom, and reflection, because here in Harmony Hall, all religions are welcomed and every voice is heard.